Okay, no, that's all right.
Okay. Daniel, I do have the question though, where did you get your ideas about rebirth?
My ideas about rebirth, yeah, is what initially got me interested in Buddhism. Um, because, yeah, I saw the description of the four path model, and that if you become an arhat, that you end the cycle of birth and rebirth. And that seemed to me like a very comforting idea because, yeah, I
Well,
had
why
a
don't
big,
you do that right now? That's the whole point of it. You see, you missed the point. Ending the birth of rebirth, if you become an arahant, that means right now you are not going to get reborn into any of your trash.
yeah, but
Okay. What does that
um,
then have to do with reincarnation kind of rebirth that you're believing in?
yeah, yeah. So as I understand it from the interviews that I've watched from you, is that there's two types of rebirth. There's one on the macro level that people think about as in reincarnation, and also on the mental level. And I believe, and that's what I wanted to discuss with you, is that you believe or experience that rebirth is only on the mental level in the form of dependent origination, and not on the macro level in terms of reincarnation.
I've never
So,
heard that macro level kind of verbiage before, but one of the things you can count on it is that people want to believe in reincarnation and that kind of rebirth. And they want to do it because they've got a reason for it. And that reason is that they're afraid to die. And so there's a kind of promise that you don't have to actually die, that you can continue on clinging to life without actually experiencing it.
yeah, for me, it's the other way around. I'm actually not afraid to die, but I'm afraid of rebirth because I don't want to
Well, don't do
experience.
it then.
Yeah,
Stop doing it right now.
yeah,
That's actually the injunction that's given in Sutta number 20. A lot of the rebirthers, and I call them that as a joke, a lot of rebirthers will quote that sutta as proof that the Buddha taught rebirth. But the last line of it is, therefore do not be reborn, as if you've got a choice about it. Well, if you're dead, how do you have a choice about being reborn again? You've lost the choice after you're dead. So the rebirth has to be done as a choice while you're still alive.
Uh, okay, so you're saying that I have a choice to rebirth or not,
Yes, you
and
make
it,
that choice on a regular basis and you
yeah,
choose to be reborn into dukkha, reborn into suffering, reborn into the four woeful states of being angry, agitated, worried, upset, or you're being reborn as a preta, wanting things that you don't have, or you're reborn as a dumb animal, which is basically the Buddha's talking about trapped animals rather than birds and bees and insects. No, the draft animals, the horses, the cows, sometimes elephants are put to work. They don't like it, but they do the work anyway.
yeah,
Okay, that's what we call business in English language. It's
yeah,
doing what you were told to do without getting the reward of doing it. And
yeah,
that's being reborn in a woeful state of doing things that you've got to do and you don't want to do them, but you got to do it anyway.
yeah,
And then the fourth one, the Asuras, is being reborn as a warrior that's afraid to go to battle. So that's the fear.
yeah.
And you're
But
reborn in all four of those states on a regular basis. And you do it by choice, ignorant choice.
When you talk about these rebirths, for me it's very hard to understand because from which level you are talking. Are you talking in the sense of a mental rebirth only in this life, or are you
What
talking?
what other would you think of? Because you don't know what the distant future is. That in fact you've already probably understood that the Buddha was big on being in the present moment, right here,
Yeah,
right now. He even had the name Tathagata, which has the word tatata in it. And the word tatata means this is it, thusness, here now, this present moment. All of that kind of stuff was what the Buddha was really big on.
yeah,
He wasn't big on old memories, 5 years old, 10 years old. So, what makes you think he's going to be interested in teaching about 500-year-old memories, which you don't have?
yeah. But yeah, I also read the suttas, especially today. I was reading a commentary by Thanissaro Bhikkhu.
Okay, don't read commentaries, read suttas.
Oh yeah, so the actual suttas he shows in the commentary as well, so I can read them for myself. And in the suttas, yeah, Buddha also speaks of that after the breaking up of the body, so after death, that there is also rebirth. And it seems to me he's
Where
talking
did
not.
you find that? I'd like to hear the reference.
Okay, I can send it to you later. I'm not sure if I can get it really quickly now, but it's
Okay.
from the website Access to Insight.
It may be very much the possibility of a bad translation, because that's
That
the biggest problem with Western Buddhism is that the Westerners who have done the translations wanted to know what the suttas meant. That's why they translated them, which
yeah,
means they didn't know what the sutta meant when they did translate it. So my
yeah,
example of that is, imagine that the CIA during the World War II were able to steal secret documents, let us say on nuclear, from the Germans.
yeah,
Is the CIA going to take those documents, high quality physics, all of that kind of stuff? Are they going to take that to a high school German class to translate?
no,
No,
no, yeah,
no. They're going to take it to a nuclear physicist who knows both German and English.
yeah,
Okay, we don't have any translations of the suttas that have all three components.
yeah,
Okay, everybody who does the translation, at best, they know one of the three, and that is their own native language. But they don't know Pali
yeah,
as if they were fluent in the language. Only a few monks in Thailand are fluent in Pali. The Westerners, not a chance.
yeah,
Okay. And then the number three, which is the big one, is that all of those people who did all of those translations didn't know what they were translating, and so they translated it with their confirmation bias built in.
yeah. Makes sense.
Okay. And so that's the problem with the suttas, and most of the words that are really, really important words are often wrongly translated.
Yeah,
Like dukkha, for instance, is translated as suffering. And dukkha doesn't mean suffering at all. What it means is dissatisfaction. And you're dissatisfied on a regular basis.
yes,
Okay. And when you're
yeah,
dissatisfied, that means that you're born into one of those woeful states of dissatisfaction due
yes,
to one of the four modes of clinging. Right. And that happens on a regular basis. What makes you think that you could do something now that's going to stop something 500 years from now that you can't stop right now?
well, I do believe that I can stop it in this life, and
Well, then let's do that. It's not worry about a distant future you've got no control over.
Yes, yeah.
Even the ones who believe that stuff say that you don't have any control over it. Then because it's all karma based. The karma of this life is going to set up the next life, and that's what they commonly believe. So they go do pujas and they go do saibat, making merit, in order to give them a better chance next time, and they miss this time altogether.
Yeah.
Then they're dead with no hope because of no knowledge of what happens after one dies. All you've heard is stories.
So then my question would be, like, if there is no rebirth, then yeah, of course it would be better to experience this life in an enlightened state.
Right. Well, you said in your thing that why not just make merry until you die? And you can't do that yet because you're still dissatisfied. And making merry means that you're merry and satisfied all the time. What are you going to do to get into that state?
Yeah. Well, okay, let's say I do agree that, of course, it's better to experience this life in a good state. But for me, the main motivation has always been that, I guess, the promise, and I wanted to see that for myself, that I would not be have to experience this samsara after this life again.
Okay, well, that's what's going to happen then. You're going to be continuously unsatisfied, continuously so until you die, and then you have no possibility of doing anything after that because you're dead.
Yes, and on the one hand,
and all that's going to be there is a karma machine that's going to dig you up out of the grave 300 years from now just to kick your ass again.
But if you're saying that, then you're kind of saying that there's actual rebirth if the karma machine digs you up.
No, I'm saying two things. Okay. Number one, I don't know, and you don't either. And number two, it's irrelevant. And it doesn't matter because it's got no effect upon you today unless you believe in it. And if you believe in it, then it will stop your belief about the future. It will prevent you from being able to really live right here, right now. The microphone is quite noisy. Yeah, if you talk, it will stop the noise.
Oh, this must be better.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, okay. I wonder then, what was the motivation for you to pursue this path? Like, if you would know that maybe you will be practicing for 40 years and not reach enlightenment.
Here's the point. The answer to that we can take right quickly, and that is that so far you have not seen dukkha. You have not seen your disappointment. And because of it, you're trying to avoid future disappointment instead of avoiding the disappointments that you have right here, right now.
Yes, yeah. Okay.
You can't see the disappointments that you're having right here, right now. You're not looking closely enough to see what's going on. And so here you are way off into the future that you have no clue about. No one knows the future.
That's true.
The only thing that we know is that everything is temporary. Nothing lasts.
Even awakening.
Well, when you're dead, how awake are you?
Yeah, I heard one of your interviews, and in there you said that you compared it to weeding a garden. That at first, or shaving a beard. At first, you have to shave a lot, and then after that, you still need to keep shaving because it's impermanent. So I'm wondering then, since enlightenment is
The
often presented.
shaving was impermanent, and
Yes.
so is the beard. Dead people don't grow beards,
Yeah.
not for long.
Not for long, no. But yeah, like the insights, enlightenment is often presented as a permanent, insight, or
By whom?
Chuladasa, for one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, one of the things that we can do with Chuladasa right now is let him be impermanent.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and among Chuladasa, well, that's the general idea that I got. And of course, yeah, for me, like reading the suttas, even the language is very complicated, and I'm not sure about the translations. So, yeah, the thing that got me very interested is to call you is, can you tell me more about what Buddha Dasa taught about rebirth?
He taught
And
two things about it. Number one, you don't know. And number two, it's irrelevant. Okay, let me go back and explain this in a way. There are always 6 ways to answer a yes or no question. And right now you're in the throes of yes, yes, there is reincarnation. We'll use the word reincarnation just to make sure that we're not confusing what the word rebirth is. And you're saying yes, there is reincarnation, and you think I'm saying no, there is not. Those are two possibilities. Let's go with the third possibility, and that is both. After death, there is both reincarnation and not reincarnation. The next possibility is neither one. There is no reincarnation and there is no non reincarnation. The fifth answer is that I don't know. And that's the obvious answer. And then the sixth one is I don't know because it doesn't matter. What evidence do we have? If there's absolutely no evidence of something existing or not, then it doesn't matter whether it exists or not.
yes, yeah. Um,
And you still don't know. That's the first thing that you have to accept is that you don't know. And right now you still have the confirmation bias. You want it to be true. Come back to a neutral position and realize that you don't know and it really doesn't matter.
well, it doesn't matter. I find that part kind of hard to accept, because
All right.
then I
Okay.
become fearful.
Here's the
Yeah.
point then, that you're clinging probably to the concept of good action gives good results and bad action gives bad results. This is ordinary view, ordinary right view, as opposed to ordinary wrong view is that no, it doesn't. I can get away with it. Now, every human, mostly, few rare exceptions within the Dhamma, but most people, let us call them Puttajana, ordinary people, they don't know the difference. They don't know. And so they will cling to the one that they like. And whichever one that you like, that's the belief system that we build up. The Buddha didn't teach about belief systems. He taught only one thing, and that is dukkha-nirodha. Now, the interesting thing is that he said that in Sutta number 22, the simile of the snake in the Majjhima Nikaya, where he was accused of teaching that upon the breakup of the body, the existing being is annihilated. He doesn't teach that. He doesn't teach annihilationism. But he was never accused of teaching eternalism. Why? Because all of the ones who were accusing him of teaching annihilationism were already eternalists themselves, mostly.
And eternalism, can you help me? What is this precisely again?
Well, let us use eternalism versus semi-eternalism. Okay, eternalism means it's going to happen again and again and again and again and again and again into infinity. No such thing as infinity, in fact. Everything comes to an end, maybe trillions of years from now, but that probably is just the end of a part of a cycle, and then things start another trillions of years and come back to the beginning again. And so we don't know any of that stuff. And guess what? It's irrelevant. Okay. So, given that everything is temporary, there is no real such thing as true eternalism. And the way that they normally thinking is, and your thinking is that, oh, I will be eternal until something happens, and then my eternalism will stop. Like finally, after 500 births from now, you'll get.
Sorry, I'm losing the audio here for about 10 seconds.
Okay.
Finally, after.
All right. So the semi-eternalism means that after a long, long time, many hundreds, maybe thousands of rebirths, finally you become enlightened, and then you don't have any more rebirths. That's what semi-eternalism is. That's what normal, ordinary, low-class Buddhists believe, is in semi-eternalism. Buddha did not teach semi-eternalism. What he taught was anicca. Now, there's the other one, which is nihilism. And nihilism or nihilism means basically that there is no karma machine. There is no karma as long term. And therefore, if I can get away with it right now, I can get away with it. Okay, I can go and do and hurt all I want to, and nobody's going to do anything about it. And the example that's used there is the guy who kills 500 cows on this side of the river, dies. Then he goes to the other side of the river and kills 500 more cows. The word 500, by the way, in Pali just means a very large number, some count.
Yeah.
And get away with it. Well, guess what? The 500 cows, after he kills one cow, he's going to have to start dealing with farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
There's a cow in India. I don't think he's going to make it to the other side of the river. I don't think he's going to find 500 cows that he can actually kill.
Yeah.
All right. So he doesn't get away with it. But that's the idea that, oh, I can get away with it because there's no karma machine. Well, the Buddha didn't teach that there is no karma. He taught cause and effect in the sense of dukkha and dukkha-nirodha. There are causes. That's what the word paticca samuppada means. It means that things happen because they are dependently happening. So, eternalism, semi-eternalism, nihilism, and annihilationism is not what the Buddha taught. That upon the break of the body, the soul or the spirit is annihilated. This is basically what we would in the West call atheism, which is another way of getting away with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Buddha didn't teach any of those four things. What he taught was temporarilyism. He taught anicca, anatta. Right? And what is anatta is not no self. It means no permanent entity. That whatever you are is a moving target.
Yeah.
Okay? You're moving. Whatever you are now, you are not. In fact, right now, you're not the same person that wrote the email.
Yeah.
All right, you
Yeah.
have been reborn. They're not the same. That's what the word reborn means, not in the sense of taking a new body. The Buddha did not and was not ever accused even of teaching either eternalism or semi-eternalism, nor was he accused of teaching nihilism, but he was accused of teaching annihilationism. Now, what's the difference between annihilationism is that the self exists as long as the body exists. But in fact, you're not the same person as you were when you were 3 years old. Not at all the same. Nothing about you is the same, except the habits that you picked up when you were 3 years old and continue to repeat. But even those are temporary.
Yeah.
That's what the real teaching of the Buddha is. That's what we're actually harping on about with personality view. And the real question of personality view burns all around to the point of, can you, whatever you are, make changes so that you're not what you used to be and have new choices about what you're going to be each moment?
And that's in the context of relieving of suffering, of making that choice.
Right. You have a choice
Yeah.
about whether you're going to suffer right now or what.
Yeah.
And you're suffering only because you picked up the habit of suffering. That every
Yeah.
child that's born to a human woman starts off ignorant and having the life position of being dependent, being a victim. If the baby is not nurtured, he will die. And so we require that nurturing. But by the time the kid is 6, very little nurturing and a whole bunch of rules are coming along. Do your homework, pick up your clothes, do what you're told to do, stand in line, go to school. 10,000 rules come in, and the little kid resents the loss of both the loss of the comfort, nourishment, and now he is being criticized. Okay,
Yeah.
and so we pick up the habit of being critical of ourselves while maintaining the position of being a victim of the criticism. So we grow up and criticizing ourselves and then being the victim of our own criticism. Eric Berne calls this the parent and the child ego.
The parent and the child ego.
The parent and the child ego states.
Yeah.
Sigmund Freud called the parent the superego, the rules, the way things are supposed to be, the criticism, and the id he called the child. Now, I'm not really all of that great on neurophysiology, but we do know enough to know that the reptilian brain, the part of that's in the back, the anterior cortex, is very much original. Dogs have it, wolves have it, all of the primates have it. We've all got it, but they call it the reptilian brain because so do the snakes and the alligators. Basically,
Sorry, I lost the audio here for 5 seconds again.
okay, that we all were born with a major part of our being as alligator. And many people
Yeah.
still act like alligators, which means that they operate according to their instincts and they're operating according to a few rules that they picked up. So whatever they like or don't like is how they live their lives. A life full of confirmation bias. Okay? Which then means that they're easy to manipulate through propaganda, through the news, through advertisements. Those people are easy to manipulate because they like and not like things. So it's easy to put them to work.
Yeah.
They tell them to be afraid. If you don't work, you don't eat. Right? So everybody goes out and works and does that dumb animal thing, doing what they're told to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have an instinctual system, and that instinctual system is also the child in us, which we would also call the feeling, because we are feeling driven. We are operating not out of wisdom, but out of raw animal emotion. And on top of that is a whole bunch of complicated rules about how that raw animal motion should operate. That would be the midcortex, the temporal lobe, that part of the brain, the mammalian brain. But humans have something that those other animals don't have, and that is the frontal cortex, where we can see what's going on, put things together, and see the facts. And many engineers could do that with the engineering, but they've got so much confirmation bias about religion that they wind up being dumb animals without religion.
Yeah.
Okay, so the example is the scientist who's the scientist 6 days a week, but on Sunday he's a Christian,
Yeah.
right? That's the confirmation bias. Why? Because he wants the things that Christianity promise. And he's also afraid of doing the things that Christianity tell him we're going to punish you and hurt you if you do those things. And so there's those rules in. Okay. So what the rules are that the Buddha talks about in the Pali is Silabbataparamasa, that we are rule bound and we criticize ourselves and then we feel bad because we don't match up to the rules that we made for ourselves. And there's no wisdom in there anyway, not bringing the frontal cortex in play. If we bring the frontal cortex in, it can see what's going on right here, right now. But all of those old memories are either stored in the cerebellum, which is behind the reptilian brain, or they're stored in language in the form of the mammalian brain. But the best part of the human being, the frontal cortex, is always seeing what's going on, or realization, or what you would call insights.
Yeah.
See things clearly, only when we're free from the confirmation bias. When we have confirmation bias, the confirmation bias is going to win, and then we don't even have to turn on our own personal giant supercomputer because it uses a whole lot of power.
So that's the reason why we live on the autopilot, as you say.
Right. We
Yeah.
live our lives on autopilot, which is instincts, with a few rules.
Yeah.
The autopilot is in an airplane, in a superliner. The autopilot is the thing itself that controls the aircraft with the yaw and all of the wing and all of that kind of stuff and the power. And then the rules would be the heading and the destination and the all of that kind of information, right? Which if you leave an airplane on automatic pilot, it's going to crash. For
Yeah.
sure, it's going to crash.
Yeah.
Crash into the side of a mountain. When if
Yeah.
the pilot was there, he could lift it up and get out of the way of the mountain because he's watching what's going on. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's the problem with automatic pilot is that it's set for a particular course over the long term, but anicca comes in, new things happen, and we wind up crash landing into our own personal hell, into our own personal animal world, into our own personal fears, or into our own personal desires. That's where we crash land. Why? Because we're not looking at where we're going and what we're doing. We're looking at how we feel.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? So that's the being reborn in an unhappy state. That's the dukkha.
Yeah. So you're saying that it's mental dependent origination then?
Pardon?
That it's mental dependent origination. So that's purely the mental processes that cause the dukkha. and that it's all contained
I'll let
within
you
that.
away with using the word mental there, though I wouldn't use it that way because it's much more complicated than the word mental. Then, in fact, the word sita does not mean the frontal cortex or the chitta, is referring to the anterior cortex. That's what needs to be trained. And how we
Yes.
train that is by dropping all of the rules. Start looking at what's going on now and start training in a new way.
Yes. Yeah, and that makes like a lot of sense to me that that we can train our brain, our consciousness, yeah, in this way you describe. But um, I always I hear people saying that enlightenment is the ultimate freedom from suffering.
People who talk of it like that don't have it.
Yeah. Would you say that anything about the path has been disappointing about you, or are you completely fulfilled?
Pardon?
Would you say that there is anything, um, well, I would say like unsatisfactory, but of course for you, well, I don't know your attainments or if you even want to talk about those, but for, let's say, for an enlightened person, for Buddha, do you think there was anything imperfect about the path for him?
The Buddha did not teach perfection to get your
Yeah.
last thing. Number two, it in Thailand for sure, but all over the place, this should be the case, is that you don't ask rude questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to ask, but
Yeah. Well, I'm not offended, but I do want to tell you that some people will be,
yeah.
or you'll just give them an opportunity to lie. The
Yeah.
next thing is that it does not matter who you ask that question to or their answer because you'll believe what you want to believe anyway.
True.
Without doing a thorough investigation.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
so the answer to the question is you don't know, and it's irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in
It's
this case,
really
it's
hard
rude.
for me. Sorry.
And say in this case, it's rude.
Yeah. It's certainly not my intention to be rude, but yeah,
I
I
know,
will
but
be.
that's the Western mind. When and
Yeah.
the Thai people would never ask that of Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, but occasionally a rude Westerner would, and his answer would be, "Who or what is it that can be enlightened?" Now he was making a basic assumption there that we need to go tear into, and that is, what the hell is enlightenment? Because you don't even know. All you have is confirmation bias. You don't have any factual information.
Yeah.
It's all mental magic to you.
Yeah. It's true. Like I've made a wager, let's say, on what the best course of action for me is to yeah reach the end of my suffering, and based on that, I
Do it
make
right now.
assumptions. Yeah.
Yeah, do it right now.
Yeah.
Again, make sure that you hear it. Do it right now. Make a change to what you're doing and do it right now. Because if you can't do it now, what possibility is there you do it later when you're not even thinking about it? Right now, you're thinking about it. Do it now.
Yeah.
That's the best way of
Yeah.
becoming enlightened is do it right bloody now. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
define what enlightenment is so that you can understand what we're talking about here. The word enlightenment, first off, doesn't exist anywhere in the suttas. There are some words that are in the sutras that they twist into the word enlightenment. In fact, the word enlightenment is much more the Hindu word than it is a Buddhist word anyway. And so we can tear the word down a bit because there's two kinds of light. In light, light is the primary word, enlightenment. Okay? The one kind of light is to turn the lights on so that you can see. Lighten up means shut all of the stuff down that you saw when you turn the lights on.
Yeah.
Okay? So take a look at what you're doing and lighten up. Those are the two kinds of enlightenment. Why don't you do that right now?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, I really get it, but and I understand that it's the best possible way to live my life, like in this life. So I do understand that it's the best course of action, but still, yeah, it
But
seems
still you'll
very
forget.
disappointing.
But
To
it's
be honest.
still you'll forget. All right. Let's go for the disappointment. First off, you'll forget. That's the sati. That's the skill that you have to develop. Is sati. Okay. And if you can remember to do it over and over and over again, of drop the unwholesome, set it down, the unwholesome thoughts, pick up wholesome thoughts, gladden the mind, and be satisfied with this present moment over and over and over again, eventually you'll get the idea that you can do it, that you can overcome that confirmation bias by practicing correctly enough. So
Yeah.
you have a new confirmation bias that's based upon actual evidence. Right now, you're just disappointed because your pie in the sky dream that you dreamt up, you're hearing from me, is not going to be what you get. What
Yeah.
you dream up is not what you get.
Yeah.
Okay. So you become disappointed because I'm shattering your dreams by pointing out reality.
Yeah.
So
Certainly
get
true.
over it. Lighten up.
Yeah.
You can set your dreams down. You have that choice to set that stuff aside. That's actually an unwholesome thought. I could see the disappointment rush right through your face when you were trying to form the question.
Yeah.
And be in the present moment. Be here now. Look what's going on now, and then make a change to that. That any thought that you'd ever had could be improved.
Yeah.
Any thought of an enemy you can see as a friend. Any liar you can see as a comedian.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to my next question. So um, I could do this, and I could live a happy life.
No, you
If it,
can't.
I can't.
No, no, you're lying to me right now. You're a comedian.
I mean,
Here's
if
the reason
I
why I say that is because if that were true, then you would have already been doing it before you called me. And then you wouldn't have
true,
needed to call me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
So
true.
you say I could da 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 da. No, you can't because you don't. The proof is that you haven't been
Yeah,
without some practice.
it's true. Let's say I would do it, hypothetically, and
All
it
right.
would all work out. Why
Maybe
would
it
that be
just
better?
rots. Maybe it doesn't work it out. Maybe things just rot. That's what the word of Nietzsche is all about anyway.
Yeah,
It's a new
that could
fad in
happen.
China. Just let it rot.
Yeah, it could happen. But yeah, if I would, and it all works out in the best way we can think of, why would that be better? Um, for example, and I'm not planning on doing this by any means, but let's say there was a drug that just has you happy all the time and has like no side
But you
effects.
already took it. There are drugs. There's a lot of drugs. There's psilocybin. There is LSD. There's ecstasy. Wow, that's a big name. Ayahuasca. The list goes on and on. There's all kinds of
Yeah,
psychedelics.
yeah,
So when you say if there was a drug, no, there's plenty. They already exist.
yeah. If you would have to practice for 70 years just to experience what you experience now for one day and then die the day after, would it still been have worth it for you?
Well, one happy day would be a whole lot better than living 70 miserable and then die,
Yeah,
which is
that's
what
true.
most people do.
Yeah.
And in
Okay.
fact, there was a bumper sticker in the 1980s: life is shit, and then you die.
Yeah. So, okay, let's say you could live for 70 years and you wouldn't have to put in a lot of effort and you just make yourself as comfortable as possible and then you die. Or you have to work really, really hard for 70 years and then get one good day in enlightenment
Perhaps the
and then die.
reason that happened was because he worked, whoever you're talking about, really, really hard. And the day before he died, he finally relaxed and stopped working so hard.
Yeah.
Then he enjoyed the day. So why don't you stop working so hard long before then?
Yeah. It should be good in the middle, good in the beginning, good in the
Good in the
middle.
middle and good in the end.
Yeah.
And for you, it's not good in the beginning. You don't
Well,
even
it,
know what the middle is, but you're all hopped up about an end that you don't have a clue about.
yeah. Well, I was practicing and I was enjoying my practicing till I found out the reality as you describe it.
Well, the
Uh,
reality as I describe it is actually, I'm pointing out the reality that exists right in front of you. If you keep
yeah.
paying attention, you'll enjoy the hell out of it. So what we do is we get caught into concepts, we get caught into rules, we caught into the way that we think things are supposed to be. We get caught into the past, we get caught into the future. We believe in reincarnation this and we're going to be that in the future, and all of that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Past and future, and all you need to do is to remember to come back to this present moment, drop all of that unwholesome thought, and enjoy the present moment. Be here now, as Ram Dass said.
Yeah.
And he was doing a whole lot of LSD when he was Richard Alpert.
Yeah. I read about that. He locked himself up for 3 weeks, I believe, doing it every day.
I'm not familiar with the details. It's been 50
Yeah.
years since I've read the books.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that answers my questions.
Okay.
It's been
So you
it's
haven't
been
gotten around then to asking the right questions.
What is the right question?
Well, let's go back and look at the fact that you've been talking about the wrong questions that are based upon the past and some desirable future. And so the right questions would be, how do I practice right bloody now? Which you haven't asked.
Yeah. Yeah. How do I practice now? Well,
Well, there is the teaching of the Buddha,
yeah, yeah,
and he taught dukkha, dukkha-nirodha. I don't see that practice much anywhere in Buddhism. What I see practice in Buddhism is dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. Take a look at the dukkha, see that this dukkha is related to that dukkha, go off down that rat hole of dukkha, and when you get there at the bottom of that one, you'll find even more dukkha to look at. This is why so many of them go into something called a dark night of the soul, and boy, do they have a lot of dukkha.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Right. So why don't we see enough dukkha so that we can get out of it immediately? Whatever little dukkha there is, let's just see it and throw it out. Let's not take it and inspect it and deal with it.
yeah.
Right?
And
Let's
your
just get
technique
rid of it
can,
right now.
yeah, and your technique can be learned at What's on Moog, right?
I don't have a technique.
You don't have technique. I heard you say that
The Buddha
in
the Buddha taught
sorry?
only one kind of meditation, ānāpānasati. Only one kind of meditation. That's all the Buddha taught.
Yeah, and that's what is practiced at What's on Moog, right?
Those who are practicing correctly, yes.
Those, yes, exactly. So I heard you in your interview with Daniel Ingram on Guru Viking. I heard you saying, like, as a critique of the other techniques, that they don't focus enough on the hindrances and overcoming them and generating joy.
That's right.
And that
To throw
and
them
that
out.
what? Yeah.
Buddha
And so
recommends that
when
on
you
a
say,
number of different suttas. I can name you at least 15 suttas that talk about the removal of the hindrances. And yet, the Mahasi method does not even teach that.
yes, so
And
you in
Christianity teaches that you can't. You need a Jesus
yeah,
because you can't deal with your own crap.
yeah. And you say that you throw out the bad, the unwholesome thoughts, and you generate the wholesome thoughts. You say that in the interview with Daniel Ingram, I believe. It's been a while since I watched it, so I'm not 100% sure. But I was wondering, like, are you then intentionally generating thoughts, as in, yeah, what can I imagine? What that process looks like. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, let me tell it to you this way. And that is that one of the hindrances is doubt. One of the 5 hindrances is doubt. We can look at the hindrances as kind of a pie that's just one thing, just like a pizza pie. That pizza pie can be cut up any way that you want to. The Buddha just happened to cut it up in 5 ways, covering some bases. But any time that you see it as a hindrances, those hindrances work together, right? So one of the hindrances is doubt. Another word for that is confusion. And often what that does is because we don't like doubt and confusion, we want to have no doubt. We want to have no confusion. So now that's 2 hindrances right there.
Yeah,
Hold on a second. Let's finish this call and take the next one.
sure. I'll grab my charger.
Hindrances, they work together. One thing that I just mentioned, let me go back and make sure that you understand it. That is that in this conversation today, you've asked a whole lot of questions, very little to do with Dhamma, and a whole lot to do with your confirmation biases. Okay? Which means that you've been in hindrances most of the time,
True.
in confusion, asking questions. What would it be like if you set all your questions down and just relaxed?
Yeah, the problem is my motivation comes from, from, well, it used to come from this understanding that I had, this confirmation bias of this bias that I had. So
Right.
now that that
But
bias is gone,
people are motivated to do all kinds of things. Criminals are motivated to murder with
yes,
their confirmation biases. People are motivated to run for public office because of their confirmation biases. So they will choose which party to run in because that party is full of people who have the same confirmation bias as they do.
yes,
So if we can figure out that and stop doing it and say, never mind, I don't have to have any of that. I could just relax and just enjoy the moment. To stop asking a bunch of questions. Stop being motivated. And just relax. That's the right effort, right? Noble effort. I heard you talking before about hard work, hard effort. That's not noble. That's ordinary effort based in motivation. So we're going to
yes,
have a completely different way of doing it is to drop your motivations and just relax. Stop being motivated of grasping and clinging
yeah,
and getting and sucking and working and all of that kind of stuff. And for a few minutes, just practice relaxing.
yeah. Like, to be honest, like before I watched the interview that got me this doubt, I was also practicing, and I was in a really relaxed state.
So
Um,
you got yourself all worked up over some things that are just completely irrelevant
well, yeah,
and things you don't know anything about.
that's true. I don't know anything about it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
Can
still,
you be
there.
happy and satisfied that you don't know anything about it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. It's like I can have energy to do something even though I have doubts or don't know much about it. But they're, yeah, to
Actually,
me they're
if you would stop asking questions, I can teach you some Dhamma. But the way that we're doing it now is like a cat chasing a mouse,
yeah,
and you're the cat.
yeah.
Okay, and there's
Okay, yeah,
no
you're
point
right.
in this mouse here to teach you anything because you're just like that.
Okay. I will stop chasing from now on.
Okay. Well, then we can get someplace. Like I said, the teaching of the Buddha is dukkha-nirodha. Come out of it immediately. That's what the third noble truth is all about. Is number one, recognize dukkha for what dukkha is. Recognize that you're creating it yourself, and then you use the eightfold noble path to stop that, and then you can just relax in being the third noble truth. Nothing much to it. In fact, the Buddha was really big on nothing. Sunyata, several sutras about it. Mahayana are even bigger on it.
And which sutta is that? I want to read those.
Pardon?
Can you tell me the number of the sutta so I can read it later?
Which one?
The one you were just talking about
Sutta number
the.
121 and number 122 in the Majjhima Nikaya.
Madhya Ukaya. Okay.
Right, the middle length.
Written down.
Sutta number 121 and 122.
Yes.
Okay, that's two of them. There are other places. So anyway, once you get relaxed, then everything is easy. Start to work with being satisfied and feel the state of satisfaction. That's what the Buddha taught. That in fact, the word that we're using here is sukha. Sukha
Sukha.
is exactly opposite of the word dukkha. When you want things, when you're confused, when you're in pain, when you're restless, when you're worried, when you're upset of any kind, sad, angry, whatever, that's dukkha. Because we're dissatisfied, want something to be different. But we can practice being satisfied. You can practice that. There have been moments that you have been satisfied. If you've been 100% completely dissatisfied for after the third year of birth, you probably wouldn't have lived until adulthood. So there are times that you are satisfied, but you haven't been paying much attention to it. Now it's time to start paying attention. Start paying attention is one's right noble effort, is to look at what you're doing and make a change. So that's the Eightfold Noble Path. There are 5 elements of it that need to be investigated early in one's practice. The first one is sati. Your microphone's making a lot of noise.
Oh, I don't have
Okay, so
any.
now, no, your microphone. All you have to do is just burp or swat your screen or do something to make Skype. In fact, you need to change your Skype setting to have
I'll
auto.
just mute myself when I'm not talking.
Okay, that'll be right. That's good. Okay, so the second noble truth and the first noble truth work very closely together because people are taught in our society that it's someone else's fault of why I feel bad. But the second noble truth points out that, oh no, all dukkha comes from wanting things, either to go or to come, and the stupidity that we have of why we chose to feel that way. So, the number one point about the second noble truth, the important thing is ignorance or stupidity or confirmation bias or delusion. Confirmation bias in its worst form is called delusion, denial, right? And so that's the ignorance and the denial of our wanting and grasping and clinging and not seeing what's going on is going to keep dukkha repeating and coming back and coming back and coming back. So we need to start following the path, the Eightfold Noble Path, that will give us some relief immediately. Right here, right now. Just drop whatever it is that's painful and come back into a state of joy. Your choice. When you do that over and over and over again, you'll begin to believe that you can do it. That you don't need any other thing, that you know that you can put your mind into a good state. That's what we need to practice, okay? Now, this is a very, very shorthand version because we spent so much of our time together with you asking this question and that question. And now that you're beginning to listen, you're beginning to figure out that there is this Eightfold Noble Path that we'll go into in detail. And the method of practice of the Eightfold Noble Path, the Buddha gave ānāpānasati. He didn't give 40 meditations, he gave one. There was literature research done years ago in Thailand to prove that that was correct. Only one kind of meditation was taught by the Buddha, and that is ānāpānasati. which gets the mind into that state of sukha. You have to practice that over and over again, to wake up, to remember, to look at what you're doing, and to make an improvement. Over and over and over again. This only takes a couple of seconds to do. It needs to be practiced over and over and over again. So every time a question comes up, you say, oh, I don't need to know that now. Wow, isn't it great? I don't even have to go figure it out. I could just sit here and relax instead. Stop asking many questions to yourself, because while you're asking questions, that's a state of hindrance. So see that you're asking a whole lot of questions, and stop and say, okay, I can be all right now without the answer to that question. I don't have to sit here and work myself up over something that I don't know and will not figure it out while I'm working myself up. And just accept that you don't know and you don't need to know. That in fact, the need to know is a hindrance. That's the hindrance, is needing something, needing to know. You don't need to know in order to be happy. So just sit down and be happy. That's the actual practice of the Buddha. So let's finish this. If you've gotten this much out of it, perhaps you'll call again and we can go further.
Yeah, great. Very much. I'm thankful for the tips also you gave at the end. And my question is, where can I learn this ānāpānasati?
Well, you can call me and we'll talk about it.
Okay, cool. And is this also taught at Wat San Mok? Because I looked on their website and I think I saw ānāpānasati there as well.
Yes.
Okay, great.
The Buddhadasa has 4 books on ānāpānasati, isn't that?
I actually ordered one today, so yeah. But yeah, I would be definitely interested in learning more from you. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity that I can call you again.
Okay,
And
well, when are you going to call back?
tomorrow, I think, if that's okay.
All right. If you want, you can join the Saturday morning call, which is Friday evening. But for you being in Chiang Mai, that would be Saturday morning at 9 a.m.
Oh, so tomorrow at 9 a.m. Yeah, that would be perfect. And that's from the UK Sangha then.
Yeah, it's the U.S. Sangha, but since you're
Oh,
in
US.
their
Yeah.
evenings is your
Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow then.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.